Hello and welcome to The Take. I'm your host, Chesley McNeil. Each weekday, we're looking at stories, making headlines, and bringing experts from our community to give their take. Here's a look back at some of the top takes from this week and how those in the know are seeing those stories that impact you. Are the tariffs actually leading to higher prices in the stores? It's a question that 11Alive News investigators Rebecca Lindstrom and Liza Lucas have been tackling for weeks now. Liza Lucas joins us now, and you've been in the stores. You've been watching the fallout from these trade talks. How's it looking so far, Liza?
Well, good morning, Chesley. Yes, we have been monitoring around 100 everyday items, and importantly, we started before the tariff changes kicked in. We all know that there has been a ton of back and forth since then with various deals and pauses. But I want to tell you this morning, our recent check-in shows some prices are creeping up. In fact, about 16% of the items we've got our eyes on now cost more. Now, some are also out of stock, and that has been raising supply chain questions.
All right, Liza, so you give us some perspective here. What kind of price increases are we talking about?
Totally varies, Chesley, totally varies. In some cases, it's just a few cents, but one viewer sent in her receipt to us noting her favorite coffee brand jumped $3 in price. A bookcase we're watching, it's up $20. And one of the televisions that we've been tracking, one specific brand, shot up $100. Now, we all know this is super nuanced. A lot of factors play into this. Some companies are better able to absorb tariff changes, or maybe they had stock before tariffs took effect, so they're not feeling that impact yet, and so consumers aren't feeling that impact yet. Or alternatively, you may not be seeing a price hike, but you may be seeing some empty shelves in places. Now here's Tom Smith from Emory explaining why.
A lot of that is because companies are unsure about how the next rollout is going to go or what it actually means, if it's going to take place, so they haven't been able to plan. And I think that's one of the biggest impacts, is that the sort of start and stop and start and stop nature of these policies are making it impossible for companies to actually forecast what their costs are going to be and then plan out 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 4 quarters ahead.
Again, that was Tom Smith from Emory, and he says that uncertainty, that's really a theme. We're hearing it also on multiple first quarter earnings calls this month. Companies just can't forecast reliably.
All right, and so you guys want other people to chime in on this, right?
Oh yeah, we want to hear from you guys, especially if you're seeing price increases or products out of stock. We want to hear from you. Tell us all about it. Send us a copy of the receipt. Let us know what changes you're noticing in the store. Help be our eyes. We're watching those 100 products, but there's more that we can do.
Yeah, I've been in the store. I've been trying to pay attention to it, but you get so much in a rush, you just kind of grab some things. It seems like groceries have been going up anyway. Is there anything we need to be looking out for in particular? You mentioned empty shelves. Is there one thing that's going to go faster than others, do you think?
Well, we've definitely seen the impact on coffee. And another thing you may have on your radar, we'll probably talk about later, is shrinkflation. So it'll be the same price, but suddenly the amount you're getting is a little less. So stay tuned for that.
The old bamboozle there. Switching bait kind of thing going on.
Gotta watch yourself.
Thanks a lot, Liza. Really appreciate that. It is May, and May is National Bike Month, and while many people are gearing up to pedal outdoors, one Georgia Tech professor is focused on something just as important, the helmet on your head, folks. Here to talk more about it is Jude Reedy, the Deputy Director for Innovative Initiative for Georgia Tech's Institute for Materials. And Professor Reedy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Chesley.
All right. A lot of people hitting the roads with bicycles, and riders feeling the need to put on a helmet. How seriously do you think riders should be putting on a helmet to protect their heads?
Yeah, they're hitting the road literally and figuratively if they fall off that bike. You only get one head, as my mama used to say, and it serves right to protect it. Bicycle helmets evolved very quickly once the bicycle came into being. People who were immediately falling off bikes and hitting their heads. So it's just continually evolved to make it safer.
Here's a question me and my producer were talking about. Is it a law here in the state that you must wear a helmet when you ride a bike?
Certainly for children, yes. Adults, I think it's up your. I didn't, when I was a child, I did not wear a helmet. Perhaps you didn't either.
No, I did not. I didn't.
But I do have both my kids' helmets. I went down to the garage to pull them out to show. So it's very much a good idea, regardless if it's the law or not.
What's the data behind these crashes? You talked about people, making these crashes, hitting their heads. What's the data behind that?
Well, it depends on what you fall Depends if you're on a dirt bike and you hit dirt, which is comparatively soft unless there's a rock or a tree there, or if you're falling very fast on a road bike, you may tend to skid and not only just have the impact, but also the abrasion of your face and head grinding across the concrete.
How has that data changed the way bike helmets are engineered today?
They've improved the technology enormously. They started out as pith helmets, which is just a type of plant material. Think of the old safari helmets that you might see somebody wear. And then they moved to polystyrene, which is styrofoam. Imagine the coolers that you see at the Quickie Marts, but shaped to fit over your head. Then they put a shell around that material to keep the polystyrene together. Afterwards, they embedded fibers within the polystyrene to help hold it together. They've changed the outside of the shell. What used to be a polycarbonate material is now what we call ABS, which has a little better performance at a wider temperature range, whereas some of the other helmets got more brittle at cold temperatures or more, say, pliable at warmer temperatures. It's always been a problem, the ventilation. That's why people don't wear the helmets, is they're hot. They get hot. So putting holes in it, like you see on my son's helmet. However, these create the challenge that as it's skidding across the ground, it can grab a hold of something and quickly jerk it, and that'll hurt your head. As opposed to my other kid's helmet, which is more smooth, a skateboard style. Now this has fewer holes in it, so it's a little bit hotter. So there's always there's trade-offs, and there's innovation continuing today.
You showed us two different styles right there. Is there one better for children opposed to adults? What should we be looking for?
I would get one that the kid will wear. They're all going to meet the various requirements that are set out there. Some will be lighter weight. Their kids are going to go for the aesthetics of it. In any event, bicycle helmets are single fall only. Once you wreck in it once, throw it away. Go get a new one, because that polystyrene, that styrofoam, has cracked, and it can no longer absorb the energy. Imagine a cooler from that Quickie Mart. Once it breaks, doesn't work good as a cooler anymore. No more than your helmet works good as a helmet anymore.
Yep. And last question for you. Technology seems to be changing on us all the time. Will something in the future come out with sensors on it, or will AI be a part of this or something like that? What do you think?
There's some very cool stuff coming out. So the foam itself changes its properties based on the rate at which the impact occurs, so it can thicken or thin. Others are inflatable helmets that either just ride around your neck and then have a sensor that recognizes that you're in the process of falling and inflates around like an airbag. Others are just inflatable to begin with, which is nice because it's very light, and it provides the impact protection, but again, that scuffing crashes, they don't survive particularly well there. Lights, reflectors, mirrors, other sorts of things like that. Gotcha.
Professor Jed Reedy, we appreciate you joining us, and appreciate you for the insight that you've brought to us. I need to go get me one of those helmets as well. I'm still riding a bike without a helmet. Can you believe that?
Yeah. My wife makes me wear one too, so don't feel bad. Thank you, Chesley. It's been great to be here.
All right, thanks a lot. The first steel beams of a new entertainment venue rose on a sprawling podium that's filling a historic hole in downtown Atlanta. KASM has agreed to lease the space for at least $5 billion in Centennial Yards for a mixed-use project now under development. Here now to talk more about this is Corey Brenton, head of the venues. Thanks for joining us on the show, Corey. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right,
Pleasure to be here.
What is KASM all about?
KASM is the leading experiential media and immersive technology company redefining the way fans across the world will consume content. If you think about us, it's the world's greatest fan experience. Our goal is to transport fans to the best seats in the house every single time across NBA, NHL, NFL, SEC football, whatever that might be across sports, art, and entertainment, putting fans in the best seats every single time.
Sounds exciting. What will the experience be like when somebody comes to visit?
What we call it is shared reality. So it's taking the best of at home mixed with the best in venue. You think about that venue style experience, bringing people together for a common cause where you can celebrate and you high five, and that energy, that juice that you get when you're there live. That's what we're really looking to do, but balance that out with the best at home. So an elevated food and beverage experience, very intimate, as we're only at 1,500 people. And the fact that I use Sunday, this coming Sunday, in both our LA and Dallas venues, which are now open as an example, we'll have an EPL Liverpool match in the morning, then transition to a Stars versus Oilers NHL playoff game, and then finally finish off the night with Knicks versus Pacers. And so you just can imagine the energy that will be there across all sports, art, and entertainment when you visit KASM.
Absolutely. You mentioned Los Angeles and Dallas having a location. What makes Atlanta prime for that?
I mean, you guys already know the city of Atlanta, the fandom that exists across sports and art and entertainment. We think about, Centennial Yards, the district, being just adjacent to State Farm, Mercedes-Benz, Convention Center, one of the world's best, Georgia Aquarium, World of Coke, College Football Hall of Fame. I mean, bringing all that together, Centennial Yards is going to be one of the premier, if not the most premium entertainment districts in the world, hosting some of the most marquee events. I mean, you have FIFA World Cup, you have Super Bowl, you have NCAA football, championship games, et cetera. So we're just really excited to be adjacent to all those great facilities that already exist.
All right, you mentioned some of those big events coming here. What's the time it's slated to be finished? Will it be finished before the World Cup?
We're excited to be open prior to the World Cup and celebrate with fans across the globe. I mean, being in the Southeast, one of the premier destinations, we feel like the World Cup is a great sporting event coming to the U.S. So, yes, we're excited to be open prior to that.
Okay. All right. Looking forward to it. Mention some of the food that's going to be there. Is it going to be something totally different that we haven't experienced before?
We like to lean into the KASM signature items, but we also want to represent, the local. And I think being authentic and tailoring that menu to fit the Southeast, the state of Georgia, the city of Atlanta. I'm actually fortunate enough to have lived in Atlanta for 7 years, just off of North Ave, worked right across the street for the Atlanta Hawks. So I know what we need to bring to be authentic and genuine to the city of Atlanta, and we're excited to do that as well.
That means we're going to have lemon pepper wings. I dig it. I dig it.
Yes, indeed.
I will be there. Corey, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate the insight on the new venture.
In Atlanta, John Sherik, 11Alive News. In Plains, John Sherik, 11Alive News. At Atlanta Police Headquarters, John Sherik, 11Alive News.
Our newsroom still mourning the loss of a legend right there. Our very own John Sherik, who's a gifted journalist and a kind soul, spent more than 4 decades telling stories here in the metro area. John passed away last month from glioblastoma, an aggressive, fast-moving form of brain cancer. But even in his final months, he and his family were sure to have his stories help others. 11Alive's Caitlin Ross has been covering his legacy. Caitlin, thanks for being here this morning.
Absolutely, Chesley. May is Brain Tumor Awareness Month, and so his family really wanted to shine a light on this. This was a story the entire station came together on. John was a guiding light in our newsroom, and now he's lighting the way for so many others through his final wish.
Yeah, we understand that these final wishes were donations to honor him at the Piedmont Brain Tumor Center. That's the same place where he had treatment for his illness, right?
Yes, absolutely, and it's already having an impact. He's helping so many people. The donations are supporting underinsured patients, funding new treatments, and expanding support systems for families going through brain cancer. Yeah, and John's wife Nancy just said it perfectly. This was the right thing to do because it's what he would have wanted. He spent his life giving back, and now his legacy is continuing to do just that.
Every morning, I'd come in his room or his room at the hospital, and he'd say to me, without fail, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And sometimes I'd look at him and think, how can you keep that faith? But it never wavered.
So you spoke to his wife, Nancy, and you also spoke to his doctor. What stood out to you about those conversations?
Well, it's one of the most aggressive and deadly brain cancer tumors, glioblastoma. It grows rapidly and often returns even after surgery, chemo, and radiation. Most people live just 12 to 15 months after diagnosis. That's why early detection, research, and comprehensive care are so critical. And that's exactly what the Piedmont Brain Tumor Center is working to provide, and that's all right here in Atlanta.
You know, the ability to do this here in Atlanta, the ability to offer, all of the cutting edge treatments and ensure that people are getting the best care possible, I think is paramount.
Is that the same care that John received?
Yes, Nancy talked about the incredible team that surrounded them. Doctors, social workers, support groups. They made sure they never felt alone. That's part of why John wanted to give back, so other families would feel that same comfort and support even in their darkest moments.
So he told many stories in his lifetime and 40 years here. And now this is a way that he's still telling a story through the people he's helping, right?
Exactly, and that's such a beautiful way to put it. Nancy said he created his legacy every day by being kind, faithful, and generous. Now his story is continuing at the Brain Tumor Center through the research being done, the care being provided, and the lives being touched, all in his name.
Wow, Caitlin, what's one of your fondest memories of John here in the newsroom?
Oh my gosh, I have such a great John story. I had just started in the newsroom and noticed right away that he always wore a suit and tie. It was just his signature look. He was very professional, always looked put together. And we were reporting on an alligator that had been spotted at a nature preserve in August. And so to get to the alligator, you had to walk like a mile and a half back in the heat. And so John walks back there with his tripod, his camera, his mic bag, a mile and a half in a suit. And we were doing the trade-off, so he was working day side, I was working night side, and I was on gator coverage, so I went to go trade off with him, and he insisted on helping me carry my gear in his suit all the way back to the gator and then walked all the way out. So that man must have walked 6 miles that day in a full suit in August in Atlanta. And that was just him. You know, he was so dedicated, he was so kind, and he was so generous in everything he did.
Good man, good man. His voice, I can still hear his voice.
I know, he has such a great voice.
Anytime I was down or anything, I could just turn to, if I saw John, I'd walk over to John and say, hey, John. And he'd say, hey, Chesley. How's everything going?
That's such a good impression. And it's legendary, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. We miss him dearly here in the newsroom. And thanks so much for telling this story. Such an important message during Brain Tumor Awareness Month, Caitlin. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
All right. If you would like to donate to John's honor, we posted a link to the Piedmont Brain Tumor Center on our website at 11alive.com. You can make their donations right there. Shoppers at one of the nation's largest grocery chains may be unknowingly paying more for groceries. An in-depth investigation by Consumer Reports and 2 news organizations found that Kroger customers were often charged higher prices at the checkout than what was listed on the store shelves. Here now from Consumer Reports, that investigative report with Derek Kravitz, who is joining us now. Hey, Derek, welcome back to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, talk to us about this investigation. What's triggering these reports of people paying more at the cash register than what's being on the shelves?
Sure. So Kroger employees in Colorado who are in labor negotiations with that company told us that they were seeing price tag errors on sales items in the stores they work in. So we sent shoppers to Kroger stores in 14 states and the District of Columbia, including Georgia, to check those prices. And we found that in more than half of the stores that we checked, there were significant price tag errors. So the prices that were listed on sales items, discounted buy one, get one, those type of offers, were not what you would see at checkout, and people are unknowingly paying full price for those products. We found the average overcharge about $1.70 per item, or about 18%.
Wow. That's pretty hefty. Now, your report lists about 150 items with expired sales tags. What items in particular are we talking about here?
Everything from cough and cold medicine to dog food to salmon, boneless beef, coffee, juice, bottled water, everything. A lot of Kroger specific items too, but name brand items as well. So every department store aisle, every division, produce, vegetables, everything. So what we're telling people is to look pretty closely at the tags when they're shopping and checking out.
Are the store managers aware of this? Are the employees aware of the problem here?
They are. When we speak to employees across the country, they tell us it's a staffing issue. They don't have enough employees or hours in the week to manually change up to 15,000 different price tags every week. That's a lot of cutting and pasting onto store shelves. And so they do fix those prices when you bring it to the attention of a store associate. They'll fix it to you on the spot. They call it make it right. But you have to ask for it, and you have to do it while you're in the store or shortly thereafter. You can't wait days or weeks after the fact.
It seems like with the way things are scanned, because of that barcode, it would be triggering that. So there's not someone doing that in one computer or whatever. You have to change this physically, so you need bodies to do that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's no digital price tags yet at Kroger. Other grocery chains and some merchants do have digital tags, but these are paper. So that requires someone physically going through and changing them out.
All right, based on this, how can consumers protect themselves?
So we are telling people if you are really trying to watch out for this, take a photo or write down the sales price when you're shopping, and then compare that to what you're seeing at checkout, either with the receipt or when you're scanning something, and then bring it to the attention of a store employee. If it's after the fact, if it's days or weeks later, you can talk to your state attorney general. There in Georgia, we checked a Georgia store in Canton, about an hour north of Atlanta. We found significant price errors there. So you can talk to your state attorney general or the Federal Trade Commission, which regulates supermarkets at the federal level.
Real quickly, you have another report coming out on Kroger today. What is that?
We are looking at secret shopper profiles that Kroger creates on 60 million Americans based off of your shopping data. So they predict your income, your education, basically who you are based on what you shop. And so we got an access to one of those profiles, and it had a lot of inaccuracies. So we're bringing attention to that.
It's estimated that more than 1 in 5 U.S. adults live with mental illness, but health officials say about only half of them receive treatment. Experts say oftentimes people don't seek help because of the stigma attached to mental health. Here now joining us is Latrina Foster, the Fulton County Director of Behavioral Health and Development Disabilities. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. Talk to us about this shaming that's been taking place as far as mental health goes and how far this goes back.
Yeah, so for years, there's been stigma around mental health and substance use disorders. However, through COVID, more and more individuals have began talking about mental health. And so hopefully individuals are feeling more comfortable to actually have the discussion around mental health, realizing that it's okay not to be okay.
What are the long-term impacts of a person experiencing mental health issues?
So mental health can impact people in many different ways. When it reaches a point where it's very severe, it impacts a person's ability to function on a day-to-day basis. So it impacts their functioning at work. It impacts their functioning at school, their ability to interact with their family and friends. So we highly encourage individuals that if you're experiencing mental health symptoms, to please seek help.
What are some of those early symptoms? Maybe I don't know that I'm experiencing. What are some of those early symptoms? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So feelings of sadness, anxiety that's persistent, that impacts your ability to interact with your friends and family. It impacts your ability to function at work. So symptoms that interfere with your ability to do daily activities.
How can we help out our friends, our family members? Is there a way that we may be able to see that in someone and give them some help?
So paying attention to your friends and family members, if they start to withdraw, if they're no longer interested in doing the activities that they used to engage in with you, they're withdrawing from the family, they're not answering the call, they're consistently or constantly depressed, they're sad, they're talking about things that do not create positive energy, I would say it's time for you to reach out to try to get help for them.
Yeah, this is becoming a big thing in our communities. Is there a way to educate communities without triggering that defense mechanism or any shame?
Yeah, and I think the fact that more and more people are talking about mental health, and I think that our community needs to become prepared and equipped to have the resources within their community and know what's available, so that when someone does reach out to you and they say, I'm not okay, you have access to a resource to connect them immediately.
Share with us some of those resources that you have in Fulton County that helps those in need.
Absolutely. So Fulton County offers an array of behavioral health services, a 70-mile county from north to south. We have strategically placed our behavioral health outpatient clinics throughout the county. We offer services in North Fulton and the Metro Atlanta area, as well as in South Fulton. In October of 2024, we opened a 24/7 behavioral health crisis center where individuals have access to just walk into this facility 24/7 to gain access to care.
What about young people as well? We talked about the adults, but what about young people?
Absolutely. We offer services for children and adolescents as well in North Fulton, as well as in South Fulton, and also in the Metro Atlanta area. So we have services for children and adolescents strategically placed throughout the county as well.
Speaking of children, the way that you said we could detect it in adults, is that the same with children as well? The sadness piece?
Yes, it could definitely be similar where they're withdrawn from their friends and family. Perhaps a student that was performing very well in school, all of a sudden their grades significantly drop. So just paying attention to our children, making sure that they're not constantly plugged into social media. They need a break from social media. The pressures that come to our youth from social media is out of control.
Oh man, yeah. Well, we won't get started on that. We'll need more time for that. Latrina Foster, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight today.
Today I'll sign the budget for fiscal year 2026, a budget that makes important investments to meet the needs of our growing state without growing government or adding to our long-term liabilities.
That is Governor Brian Kemp earlier this month, complete with his trademark Southern drawl. But new research from UGA and Georgia Tech is showing that the drawl may be on its way out. Joining us now is John Forrest. He's an assistant professor at UGA in the Department of Linguistics. Almost couldn't say it myself. I'm using my drawl. Welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. How unique is this Southern drawl?
The Southern drawl encodes like a particular social history in the South. It is unique in that it developed here over the past 100 years or so, and it's something that I think a lot of people feel like is pretty iconic for the area.
Oh yeah, I bet. Now, what went into your research to lead to this maybe shrinking or going away?
Yeah, so what we do is we just sit down and talk with people, record them, and then we can measure exactly, like in sound waves in your speech, how you're articulating different things. So the accent that you have is based on things like where your tongue is in your mouth when you articulate vowels. So we sit down and we talk with people. We have interviews that we've done with people born over 100 years in Georgia. And we sat down and said, hey, how is the accent changing over time? And we did find that in general, there's less of that Southern vowel stuff in the accent over time. It's not everybody and it's not everywhere, but in general, it's going away a little bit.
Now, what's leading to that? Is it more that more people are moving into the area, maybe from the north or from a different region where they don't use that type of drawl?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it, right? There are usually two pieces that I tell people about with this. One is that structural thing that you're talking about, right? Part of it is a lot of people are moving in from outside the South, especially after World War II. A lot of people moved into a lot of Sunbelt cities, so you have a lot of different options on how to talk. And the other thing is partly like people change how they want to sound. When you grow up, you have a lot of options around you and how you want to talk. Accents tell people who you are. So it might be people changing too, like how they want to position themselves and what that means to them.
Well, now, it seems like it was more of a negative kind of thing associated with that Southern drawl. Is that also leading to it going away?
Yeah, that definitely can, right? Because there are a lot of times if people will tell you about the Southern drawl, they'll say, oh, well, it might sound like cute or nice, but also maybe doesn't sound too smart or something, is often what I'll hear. And if that's the perception growing up, that might affect how you want to talk. And that's like, if it's going away for that, that's a sort of sad thing, right? If people are doing it because they want to do something else, that's cool. If they're not doing the Southern accent because, hey, I don't want to see, like, people treat me weird because of it, that's not great. But it definitely is a pressure as well.
So where do you see it going in the next 20 years? Will it be around or will it be completely gone?
That's a great question. It's always hard to predict things like that. If I were to guess, I bet it would still be around, but it's probably going to be in particular pockets. I know talking with people in more rural areas of Georgia, it's changing much more slowly than urban areas like Atlanta, and we know that to be true. So it'll probably stick around in some form closer to what we expect to be a Southern accent now in those areas. But it's hard to know in 20 years. People innovate stuff all the time. And that's the fun part.
Is there any age group behind this shift of it going away?
Yeah, so over time, we tended to find that between baby boomer and Gen X sort of age people is when the shift in the Southern accent really started. And so by Gen X folks, we really see it start going away. And by people my age, like I was born in 1988, or Gen Z folks, a lot more of them don't have much of a Southern accent.
Well, we'll have to see. Do you think it'll ever go away completely?
Not away completely, in the idea that, like, if you're from the South and you have an accent that you got growing up here, that's the Southern accent, right? Like, we're going to change what it means over time. As people change how they talk, what it means to sound Southern is going to change too. So there's always going to be something of this place, of this region, that's going to be meaningful to people, but it's probably going to sound a little different than it does now.
I find that no matter where you are in the United States, whether you're in the Northeast, whether you're in the Midwest, there's always something different about what you say. People can always tell that I'm from Philadelphia when I say water.
Yeah, water's a big one in Philadelphia. But yeah, there might be particular words that come out. There might be particular just like things and terms. A lot of place names, people will immediately place you because we've got special ways to say place names and things like that. If you say Ponce the wrong way in Atlanta, people are going to know immediately that you can't say Ponce de Leon, not Ponce de Leon, and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, I mean that's a big one there. When I first got here trying to say the right street names, I got ridiculed from that. Where are you from, John?
I'm from Charlotte, actually.
Oh, Charlotte, okay. You have a special language there?
It's pretty similar to Atlanta, but same sort of deal. People usually don't clock me as being Southern.
Gotcha.
So the same thing's happening in Charlotte as is happening in Atlanta and other areas.
Professor Forrest, really appreciate your insight, man. Thanks so much. We now know that it was an EF1 tornado that touched down in Butts County. The National Weather Service says the twister packed winds up to 90 miles per hour. It started in Spalding County and stayed on the ground for more than about 10 miles through parts of Henry and Butts County. Despite the widespread damage, no serious injuries have been reported. That's some good news right there. Here now with the latest is meteorologist Ryan Willis from the National Weather Service in Peachtree City. Hello, Ryan. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, we know it was an EF1 tornado that touched down just to the south of our area here in Atlanta. Is that rare for that early in the morning to have an EF1 tornado touch down?
Not necessarily rare. We do have a number of overnight tornado events in this part of the country, but certainly not the peak time for tornado occurrence, when a lot of people are asleep and that sort of thing.
Right, we had a couple of tornado warnings in that area. Was that the only tornado found as far as the damage goes?
At this point, that is the only confirmed tornado we have. We completed that survey yesterday. We are going on another storm survey today that will be underway shortly up in Gordon County to determine whether or not a tornado occurred up there a little earlier in the night. And then we're looking at a couple of other spots potentially further to the north up in Dayton, Chattooga, where we're kind of communicating with the emergency management officials up there to determine if we need to take a closer look.
Is that the only area we're going to? You're going up to the north, you said, up toward Gordon County. Is that the only other area, I think, you're suspecting that maybe tornado damage is found?
Yes, at this point, that is the only area that we are deploying out today to take a look at some of that damage.
What goes into a survey? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so for a survey to take place, obviously we take a look at radar as well as any damage reports that may corroborate what we're seeing on radar, send out usually a team of meteorologists to go and take a closer look at the damage and see if it lines up with where potentially we had rotation or indications of a tornado on radar. And then we take a look at what kind of damage there was and what kind of wind would take to cause that type of damage, and then from there we can determine peak winds as well as whether or not it was an EF01 or so on during that survey.
We often hear people talk about how they hear the sound of a train when they hear those type of winds coming through. Is that always what you would hear when it comes to a tornado, or can you get that same sound when it comes to straight line winds?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you can get some very loud noises potentially that sound even, like a train, even with just straight line winds if they're strong enough. Also in this part of the country, we have a lot of trees. Obviously, it gets very noisy whenever you have really strong winds blowing through those trees. So it can be strong straight line winds or tornado, not necessarily just one or the other.
Let me ask you this. When obviously you guys will go out to a place where you've seen a Doppler indicated tornado, you know that you're going to survey those areas. Will you go to other places that may be lining up with what could be tornado damage when people send in reports?
Sure, yeah. Sometimes even if we don't necessarily see a really strong indication on radar, if we get reports of some some damage that's more significant, that needs a closer look, whether it be a potential tornado or even some more intense straight line winds, we definitely can send a survey team in those situations as well. It doesn't always have to be just radar led to get out there.
One of, our area would be Claiborne County, which is over into Alabama. I know you guys probably don't cross the border much to go over there. What can you tell us about that particular tornado?
So that is the Birmingham, Alabama office. So they'll be taking a look at, those areas within Alabama to determine what may or may not have occurred over there. I don't have any updates at this point from what that office may or may not be seeing, but they will be taking a look at some of the locations over there in Alabama.
Obviously. Okay, great. Yeah, I know you guys collaborate often, especially our neighboring offices. And so I know these guys will be working with you to determine that. Anything else you can tell us about obviously the forecast is looking beautiful for the next couple of days and through the holiday weekend. Can you give us more on that?
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, not bad for the next couple of days. Obviously, as we get later into the weekend and towards Memorial Day, maybe the chance for some scattered thunderstorms does start to return. But, all in all, not looking too bad, and nothing, on the order of what we had with the more widespread severe a couple of nights ago. So looking pretty good.
One last question for you. We often, you were used to talking, I guess I'm old school as well, weather radio, right? Especially when we have overnight storms. We'll tell people, hey, make sure you have your weather radio on or a way to get the alerts, because oftentimes people go to sleep and maybe kind of forget that maybe bad weather is coming. Is it better technology now to use your cell phone for those alerts, or do you stick with the old-fashioned radio?
So we like to promote both. Obviously, cell phone technology now is great. Whenever we have tornado warnings or a more significant, severe thunderstorm warning or a flash flood warning that kind of tips into the trigger that would set off your phone. So that's a great way to get the warnings. But we also do like to still promote the NOAA weather radio as a secondary. That way, if for some reason the cell service or something fails, that's still a tried and true older method that still works pretty reliably. So we still like to promote weather radios as well.
See that? Old school still in place, man. Tried and true. I like the way you said that, Ryan. Really appreciate it. Ryan Willis with the National Weather Service out of Peachtree City. Thanks for joining us. The U.S. Justice Department moved to cancel police reform settlements with Minneapolis and Louisville, which aimed to overhaul their police departments. It came following the high-profile deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor in 2020. The Trump administration also withdrew investigative findings in 6 other police departments accused of civil rights violations. Here to talk more about this is Kama Pierce, a Chief Program Officer for the National Center for Civil Rights and Civil and Human Rights. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Give us your take when you first heard this news yesterday.
Well, it does seem kind of symbolic with the timing of this, but it's not really surprising with what we've been seeing with the administration and pulling back with independence of states. But we know in our system in the United States, it's the checks and balances that are really important. And consent decrees are the power of the federal government to have that oversight when there are abuses. So they're not going into every police department, but when there is some systemic abuse and evidence, we can empower the DOJ to go in and do an investigation and enter into these consent decrees. And it's way before the Biden administration. I mean, there was a consent decree in Los Angeles in 2001.
Mm-hmm. How might this policy reversal affect ongoing efforts to reform police practices in cities documented with patterns of misconduct?
Yeah, that is a concern, right? And that's the concern everyone has. There is hope that news came out that the departments will still implement some of the things that were put in place with the DOJ under Biden. This is really going to be a case of communities having to self-police. We know that there are wonderful departments out there that do the training, watch the numbers, and are very active in making sure that they are real partners with the communities that they're policing. And we're going to have to depend a little bit more on that if we don't have this oversight. But the oversight is important. History tells us that when the federal government has to step in and get involved and then prematurely, pull out, it could have some disastrous results. Reconstruction era is actually an example of that.
Talk to me specifically about Minneapolis and Louisville. These were 2 places where, it's going to have obviously a big time effect. Talk to me about those places.
Well, the leaders there say that they're committed to continue to look at, the situation within their police departments and to make sure they train their police and do all those things that the consent decree would ask for anyway. And so it's the local communities really need to hold that leadership and those police departments to that standard to make sure that civil rights violations do not occur within those areas.
What about here in Atlanta?
Atlanta is a great example. We have a great relationship here with our department, with our mayor's office. At the National Center for Civil and Human Rights, actually around 2020, we entered into an agreement with the Auschwitz Institute where we actually have a repair program where we do a course on human rights and protecting human rights and civil rights of citizens. And the Atlanta Police Department goes through that course with us.
Sounds good. All right. In your view,
we'd like to see more. Yeah.
Right. In your view, what role should the federal oversight play in ensuring the accountability of local police departments?
So, I have been an attorney both in the federal system and in the state system, and you would like that the state system and the state police departments police themselves, but we know there are examples of abuses all across America that stem back, from when we had slave patrols in the 1700s. And so for those departments that are not being responsible, it is important to have that check of the federal government. And so this is a little bit of a backtrack when we don't have that check in place.
How do you think communities, last question for you, how do you think communities and local organizations will respond to this new rollback?
Well, we're already hearing civil rights organizations and local communities are concerned, especially those communities that are deeply impacted with the relationship with the police, Black and brown communities, poorer communities. And so it's going to be really important for local leadership to be that watchdog and to hold the police department accountable if they cannot have that federal oversight. And it's possible, and it has been done. And I think we're going to see more and more of that kind of activity happening on the local level.
Kayma Pierce, really appreciate your insight this morning. Thanks for joining us. We may be talking to you soon. Yeah. All right. Take care. MARTA is set to start work to renovate its 5 Point station, Atlanta's central transit hub. The $230 million project begins on the heels of recent calls from riders to increase security. Joining us now is Greg Graffida, the MARTA Director of Capital Project Communications. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having us.
All right, the project at 5 Points is a massive undertaking. It's been going on for years. How glad are you to finally see it get to this particular point?
We are thrilled. It's long overdue. The station has been open for 46 years, and that's 46 years of Atlanta weather and wear and tear, and we are very excited to begin the work to really make this station serve another 50 years.
All right, talk to me about all the bells and whistles that's going to go into this project.
Sure. So the biggest part of this is we are taking down the concrete canopy. Of course, this is this famous 70s, structure that's built above our plaza. It's really a highly engineered structure that is very complicated to take down. So we're going to have to put up shoring to hold the weight and then take it apart piece by piece. So that's really kind of what the major element of this is. That requires us to make some changes to how the station operates. The biggest thing everyone saw on Saturday, this past Saturday, we had to move all of the buses off of Alabama Street so that we can have that space for construction equipment and the crane that's going to deconstruct the building. So most of those buses are running on Forsyth Street, and now they have been detoured to lay over at nearby stations. As far as those train customers, they will all still be able to use the station. You will still be able to ride through the station or transfer as you normally do. If you enter or exit at 5 Points, you will need to use the Forsyth Street entrance.
And so, we were looking at the renderings just a moment ago. It looks beautiful. Is this something that you think will anchor a new look for downtown Atlanta?
I think so. I really see it as a complement to a lot of the other investment that's happening in downtown. We intend this to really be a much more functional transit hub as well as a great civic space for downtown Atlanta. Obviously, there's a lot of exciting things happening. You've got all of the development in the Gulch. You have South Downtown. You have Underground, and a lot of other kind of smaller projects throughout the area. And we are really happy to be a partner in seeing the next few years of what downtown looks like.
We've heard the outcry of some riders calling out for safety. How much safety will be going into this project?
Sure. So one thing with the new design of the project, there's going to be much more clear sight lines. We think that it's really going to prevent some of the issues as far as visibility for our customers. I think generally having a new space that really has, that's very clean and new investment and better lighting is going to be something that really, I think, makes all of our customers and other downtown residents feel much safer.
You know, you mentioned some construction delays due to the weather. Everybody blames the weather, right? And so it probably not going to be finished by the time of the World Cup. How much do you worry about this?
Yeah, so this project is really a massive undertaking. We had never intended to have it fully complete by World Cup. Last year, we did explore a schedule that would have allowed us to complete the deconstruction before World Cup. That would have required closing the entire station at the street level so that no customers would be able to enter or exit. We heard a lot of pushback from the community and our customers about that. So we recalibrated, we went back and looked at the schedule, and we came up with a way to keep the station open. But the consequence of that is it will take longer. We are going to have the station open and functioning during World Cup. That Forsyth Street entrance will be open, but it's going to be a construction site above.
You know, it's graduation season. Yes, indeed. And although I'm truly excited for all the graduates out there, attending the ceremony can be a bit rough. You know, it's probably one of the only ceremonies where no matter what you say and how many times you say it, people are just going to break the rules. That's what they're going to do. For example, please hold your applause until all the names are called. That never happens, right? Some mom's going to say, that's my baby. And everybody's going to clap every time a name is called. And then you have that student that holds up the line because they have to do that graduation dance, you know what I mean, either getting their diploma or after they receive it. So the line gets held up. And then there's this. An exciting graduate at the University at Buffalo wanted to share the moment with his son, so he wants to walk his son across the stage with him. That's a no-no, folks. That's against the rules. But he does it anyway. And so as they try to stop him, he runs up there, and the campus police follows him, and they get up there, and it's an awkward moment. The campus police doesn't know what to do. So he just kind of goes and he graduates. That's the way that works, right? We're going to have to do something about this. We're going to have to figure it out, folks. Everyone wants their moment in the sun, and deservedly so, right? After 4 to 5 years of all that hard work, you made it to this point. Yeah, you got to celebrate, right? I'm just telling you, as a college professor and a college advisor, having to sit through these moments is priceless, but it's also time consuming. I got to do it. Congratulations to all the students out there that may be graduating. That's all we have for you today, folks. Make sure you make it a great day. Thanks for joining us. Try to encourage someone today not to do that dance, that graduation dance. What is that?